Everyone. I hope you enjoyed our first session. So it's time for our second session for the day on Bitcoin, digital currencies, DIEMs, and CBDCs and blockchain, the good, the bad, and the ugly. With our distinguished industry leaders, Dr. Vikram Venkateshwaran, founder and editor at Healthcare India, Mr. Praveen Gade, Senior Vice President, Digital Transformation at Sumnati Financial Intermediation and Services Private Limited, and Mr. Inderjeet Singh, Chief Cybersecurity Officer at Vara. So starting with the session, I would like to ask Dr. Vikram the question about what are the key opportunities for blockchain in India, and knowing that Praveen and Inderjeet are also blockchain experts, I would like their inputs on the topic as well.
Yeah, sure, Jigyasa. Thank you for the question. And I think this is a question that should be on everybody's mind, right? Especially in a country like India, because we have a very distinct advantage of not having already invested in a infrastructure of sorts, right? If you look at the landscape across India, we were still catching up with a lot of the advancements in technology while this digital wave has hit us. And one of the direct beneficiaries, for example, has been the mobile revolution, where we don't have as many desktops and laptops, but we have enough smartphones. Similarly, on blockchain, I think blockchain is a foundational technology, and the opportunities that blockchain has, whether it's in supply chain, whether it's in cryptocurrency, which is obviously a topic of huge debate right now, or whether it's in identity, digital identity, whether it's in document management, keeping track of land records, etc. The opportunity is immense, right? So I think foundationally, we are in a good position to look at it. There are certain parameters that have to be assessed. There is certain work that has to be done. Luckily, the government has already released a national blockchain strategy. It did that somewhere towards the early half of the year. A lot of industry bodies have already commented on it. I had the opportunity to comment on it as part of my role at IET, where I did it more from a healthcare angle, but we also commented on it from smart cities perspective, from financial services perspective. When we look at FinTech and the opportunity that FinTech has across industries, including healthcare, I think blockchain is a very strong component of it. And, I think we are in the right position to do it. It's just that few considerations have to be kept in mind. But I would also love to hear from Praveen and from Inder on the same.
Sure, not just FinTech, the wide range of verticals there, FinTech, supply chain, healthcare. I personally see a lot of potential in terms of solving real world problems using blockchain. In fact, I was very active in the US and blockchain communities. The kind of solutions we see here are mostly kind of trying to replicate certain solutions, not essentially building trust systems. That's what I see in most cases, mostly leveraging the immutability of the blockchains. Those are the areas. So even if we look at these opportunities, putting in two buckets, one is the traditional solutions from a business standpoint, the other one is the cryptocurrencies area, right? So my passion has been on number one. Of course, today's topic is more wide-ranging. So within the blockchain solutions, the distributed ledger solutions per se, wherever we see a lot of, we interact with a lot of startups too. Most areas where we see is immutability is what they kind of try to make use of. The tougher part is actually creating those consortiums, trying to bring people together, trying to build those trustless systems, right? So I see a lot of opportunity in that space if one were to really create a differentiation and also solve real world problems.
Inderjeet?
Yeah. Firstly, thanks for having me here today and discussing on a very pertinent topic of the blockchain and the crypto and the digital currency which is there, and also the fintech. giving a thought on the blockchain part of it, and we see a lot of impetus when we look at what Vikram has also brought in, that government of India is moving towards a blockchain while negating towards the crypto part of it, and taking it further, and also coming up with the digital currency. Maybe it was called Lakshmi in some point in time, but then those are the kind of things which we are going to see from the digital currency part of the blockchain, which is there. In addition, when you look at from the use cases from the government centric, blockchain is kind of in the land record management, your birth certificates. We are seeing a lot of traction in those areas right now. But there is always a kind of resonation, or there's a confusion, which was initially when we spoke of blockchain. We were very much comfortable 2 years back, when even the Gartner scale, it would show that the blockchain was there. In 2019 we suddenly found that the blockchain vanishing from the overall scene, and then we saw the DAO coming in. And so there's a lot of confusion between the blockchain acceptability, and most of the people, when they talk about the blockchain, whether they say, are we going to change the complete infrastructure? Are we going to change the complete network? The blockchain is a public ledger, and how do we really work on that? And then we also talk of Ethereum, which is coming in, and also the private blockchain, and larger organizations which are there today, they have a bigger opportunity to work on the blockchain because they have SAP, or they have a CRM, or they have their own proprietary softwares which are there. They can put all of them on a blockchain, right? Creating a private blockchain, creating an infrastructure called a blockchain as a service, getting that together. I initially, when I started working in blockchain somewhere 2015 onwards, I came up with a blockchain as a service, as a huge platform, and that was a one platform which we developed, and it is really working pretty good. That's the kind of things what are there in offering from the blockchain perspective. To take any use case for that matter, right? Supply chain, or your healthcare, or your voter ID cards, your Aadhaar cards, your certificates, everywhere there's a lot of traction. We are seeing a lot of startups coming up in the complete ecosystem. We are seeing a lot of startups coming up. We are seeing a lot of, things happening which are very positive. And that's really a very green light for the blockchain community to take this further, right?
Thank you, Inderjeet. So moving on to cryptocurrencies. So cryptocurrencies are here to stay. The question of them becoming mainstream is not whether they will, but it is about when they will. What do you think it will take for sovereign countries to adapt cryptocurrencies, Praveen?
So again, what the entire blockchain technology brings is democratization, disintermediation, and essentially it makes things available to people, things that are not available to most of them, right? Identity is not available for everyone today, right? So likewise, when we talk of even cryptocurrency itself, it solves a lot of problems with regards to liquidity issues, with regards to making cash available to everyone. So many solutions are available there. So there are good things of cryptocurrencies, bad things of cryptocurrency. Speculation is something which is drawing the markets crazy today. For one reason why the government has decided to ban crypto today. So the appetite for each country is very different. If we compare the Western world with what we are doing today here, if the government has taken a stand that let's not allow the cryptocurrencies as yet. So like you said, Jigyasa, it's not a question of whether, it's a question of when. So even when Uber came in, every city banned Uber instantly because there was no regulation. And in civilized societies, governments are the primary caretakers of the society. So even democratization may really look like very beautiful concept there, But then democratization without regulation is also a big challenge, right? So for that reason, what I personally feel is central banks should pitch in. They have to publish digital currencies. The focus should be more on stable coins, not on the speculative ones. Speculative ones only when there is value being added, like today in trade market, in stock market. Stock market works primarily on value creation, whereas the crypto market does not essentially rely on value creation. Value creation, uh, burning computing power, electricity, doing a lot of gaming, these are not value additions, right? Of course, to certain quarters, yes. But then curatively take a look at where value is being created, there add speculative components there. But if it is primarily just for the sake of participation, also look at how wealth gets transferred, right? From the common society, from the fiat currency to the crypto. From whose hands is it moving to whose hands? It's an essential thing. So as long as the government really takes some stand there, and Dr. Vikram already mentioned, we have a blockchain policy, so that's important to take a comprehensive look at that. So focus on stable coins. Do not dilute democratization, but at the same time look at proper regulation, reasonable regulation, not over regulation, but reasonable regulation. And then also curate how the wealth is getting transferred from the offline physical world into the online. So what is the cost of that transfer of liquidity happening, right? So what are the means and methods being used? So these are the areas I would say the society at large should really take a closer look at, how the individual countries should take a look at how they want to transition.
Thank you, Praveen. So, Inderjeet, providing the upcoming bill on ban on trading and holding of cryptocurrencies in India, I think that it will just create a black market for Bitcoin, because the only way to ban Bitcoin is to ban the internet. Where do you think India is headed in terms of trading in Bitcoin? Since countries such as the US and China accepted cryptocurrency, so do you think it will that it will hamper our economy? What are your views?
Yeah. Definitely, that's what we have been talking about, that India has to be part of the growth story of the blockchain and the Bitcoin. And blockchain and the Bitcoin are synonymous to each other. So you really have to be, careful taking off one from the other. At the same time, while you talk the cryptocurrency and the ban on the cryptocurrency, I would suggest rather than doing a blind banning of the cryptocurrency, going for a regulation, right? And looking at the community, what we have in India, we are almost trading $1 billion on the Bitcoin front. And I think there are 70 million people who are working on the Bitcoin community. So there's a huge community which is already working on. And we're like, there's already, we are seeing Elon Musk, bringing in the investment into the cryptocurrency. We are seeing other larger banks, organizations which are there, financial institutions which are there. They're trying to get into the cryptocurrency. Definitely, we have a huge scope when it comes to exploring that cryptocurrency and making it a kind of a regulated one. The best part is regulate it, tax it like your capital gains. And what you need to do is, if you have anybody holding a crypto, you can always validate his earnings and give him a tax like the other taxes what we pay. Presently, what we are doing is, when we don't have any regulations in place, the black market is in vogue. The cryptocurrency, is being used for the nefarious activities also, buying pornography, getting into the gambling part of it, the terror funding, the dark market transactions, which are all happening, which is all visible today. So, those kind of things, if you're able to regulate, you'll be able to regulate the exchanges also. There are 10 exchanges in India as of today. How are we regulating them? Who's controlling them? Their presence in India and, working on, what regulations you put on them, what KYC documents they are having in place. We don't know how they are really working on, because while all exchanges do have, set rules for the KYC, but at times they are flouting it. Even they don't know how they're flouting it, because you don't know who the customer coming onto the exchange is, right? So if you have the right kind of methodology, like you have in the normal brick and mortar banks, to have a KYC, regulations, checks and balances, and also like in the case of Japan, you have a proper exchange which has come up for a crypto. There's a trading like a stock exchange. There they have the things in place. So it will avoid the kind of hawala transactions. It will avoid the black money transactions which are there. So lots of advantages you can have in place if you go in for a proper kind of a regulation in times to come. And that's the way forward. I feel while we talk of the banning of the cryptos, and while we talk of taking it further, that's the right way. So getting the regulations is not just a procedural part of it's a technology part also. So we have to bring in those kind of technology sets which can keep a check on these electronic exchanges, because everything is happening electronic, everything is happening in the digital world. You cannot put a stop to it, right? And the only way you can put a stop to it is regulate, right?
So keeping Inderjeet's views in mind, I would like to ask Praveen, how is the value being transferred today from fiat to crypto? And whether those means and methods are effective in making this world a better place, and what should society do to ensure the change happens for the good?
Yeah, again, very pertinent topic in today's situation, where all companies are following sustainable development goals. They're making sure whatever they do as a business, it's impacting the people as well, not just the profit, but also the people and the planet. So when we talk of all these topics, blockchain has come up as a savior in many ways, because it provides solutions that are very aligned with the SDGs. But then if you look at how the transfer of wealth is happening from the fiat currency to the blockchain today, it's driven, majority of that is being driven by speculation. Right, all the bitcoins and the ethereums, they do have very good intentions, and they do have some very tight leak proof methodologies to make sure the right people are given the tokens or the coins. But then if you look at those methods, there are the good ones, there are the bad ones. A lot of gaming, many gaming paradigms have come where coins are being distributed, right? There are methods where new coins are coming every day and finding new ways of saying, ye karo, you get coins. And that ye karo, this what you do, is not always essentially a very good value created, right? It could be wastage of resources, wastage of time of very productive people, or this is a personal observation. So how this wealth is being transferred from the current physical world into a crypto world is a topic I would challenge the entire blockchain fraternity to take a closer look at. There are some good examples like nature coin, solar coin. I myself might be advocating a lot of sustainability aspects here, but then there are better ways to. Proof of work is a little stale. Bitcoin itself works on proof of work. Ethereum decided, yes, let's move from proof of work to proof of stake, right? But then proof of stake brings in much more challenges, like liquidity becomes an issue. So then they started saying proof of liquidity. So I would say responsible tech entrepreneurs here are actually changing the paradigms to suit the needs of the society. But then there are always these side effects. So if the society at large, conscious consumerism is something I keep talking about. If the society is taking that approach, even when it comes to really getting into the crypto world, it really helps. That's what I would say. Yeah.
Praveen, there's a quick question from the audience. With intermediation going away, how will crypto impact the banking sector? Would you like to take that question for a minute?
Sure. Again, for every change, there are going to be a lots of things that would change in the society, right? Paradigms change. Today, everything is being Uberized, right? All the taxis, and we can't control that. So even banks are realizing that, right? But it takes time for people to understand how this new organism would look like, right? So they have to understand. Even last 1 year, the entire world is really trying to understand this new organism, right? That came in. We are much more successful this year than last year in managing the virus. So, and a change could be good or bad. So how I see is banks are learning. FinTech is evolving, like Inderjeet said. FinTech is evolving. It's bringing in very good solutions. So disintermediation could be a thing of past, but then this organization would still find relevance in some or the other way because they are adding value. It's not that they are not adding value. Intermediation is only one component of what they do, right? So they find their place, and all the cordas and all these new blockchain solutions that are coming into fintech, I think they're pretty innovative, and a lot of real world problems are again being solved. So I don't see them going away. I see them re-emerging in new forms. That is what I see.
Thank you, Praveen. So, Inderjeet, now the question comes to you. When it comes to trading in cryptocurrency, overseas transactions are something that might benefit because transferring Bitcoin takes less time than bank transfers, but at the same time, volatility in the same poses
Mortality.
a
Yeah.
mortality in the same poses a big risk on the entities involved. What are your views on this?
Okay. Two parts to it. What Praveen brought in, and the intermediate going away, and that's one thing which I would like to say, that there's one more technology set which is coming up, that's called a DeFi, right? That's a decentralized finance. So that's going to change the complete game of the banking sector. That's in offering in another 2025. You'll be starting to see a lot of traction. We see last 1 year we have seen so much of things happening in the DeFi space. So that's the area of interest. So you can always market that, how the banking sector is going to change, right? That's one. Secondly, while you're transferring amounts, so you need to understand how you're transferring the amount today. So you go through a Swift switch, right? And through that switch, it takes time, and it's being controlled by dollars. So the countries which are controlling the Swift switches, they're controlling the dollars. That's why the dollar is the supreme. That's why the currency is everywhere. Now, when it comes to the Bitcoin, so there's no central body which is there for the transaction. It's going through the exchanges, right? And you can cross-border transactions which can happen. It can go without any kind of intermediary that way. So when you look at the volatility part of it, I don't see that it's really going to be a major change now, but it's going to give a big advantage. Where you are taking, say, 2 days for a Swift switch to act, any transaction to go past, now it's happening within minutes, right? And some of the Bitcoins which are there, but some of the cryptocurrencies which are there, they are quite quick. So you will find so much of things happening very fast. So net, you're going to gain with the Bitcoin transaction, the digital currencies which are there. So things are going to change. But you have to understand the economy, how it really works, how the Swift switch really works, who are the people who are controlling, which are the countries which are controlling behind it, and why you see at some point in time resistance to getting onto the cryptocurrency, and for the international transactions. So it's a whole set of huge discussion. It's not just I will be able to sum up in a couple of minutes or one line. It's a very interesting topic of how the cryptocurrency transactions happen, and how you're going to gain advantage. But definitely there's an advantage when there's no intermediary, and the money is going to the person right when you want it.
Thank you, Inderjeet. So now my question to Dr. Vikram, keeping Inderjeet and Praveen's points in mind, that how can we prepare for the future growth?
Yeah, I think that is the $1 million question, right? And in this country, specifically in India, uh, the government is probably going to be the biggest adopter. And almost everybody is going to watch and see what the government is going to do. Let me take you back a few years ago, and I was just watching a debate, an old debate in Parliament, where the opposition and the government were going at each other over digital payments. And the opposition had, you don't have ATMs and ATMs don't have cash, and you don't have powers anywhere, and you don't have this, you don't have that, so digital payments can't work. But if you look at it, the biggest problem was infrastructure, and that problem itself was solved by the government itself. Whether it was UPI, whether it was making digital payments accessible to everybody, making India becoming power surplus now, better communications, 4G technology. So a lot of those foundational things were put in place by the government. In my opinion, given what has happened in the world, whether you look at Dubai, Estonia, or Japan, the adoption of blockchain has foremost been done by the government. So in India, I don't think it'll be very different. I think government will be the biggest adopter of blockchain. If you look at the work being done by the government in along with organizations like iSpirit, where they've already started building out the India stack, I think a lot of that plumbing is already over. A lot of the configuration is in place, and I'm sure blockchain will find itself a very important component of the India stack, and that will be the start. I think that will be one foundational layer when you start going into India stack with blockchain as a component that is available as a Lego block, plug and play. I think a whole lot of things will change. The second thing is a lot of the government departments, whether it's open governance as a continuation of our RTI, whether it's open democracy, open data, a lot of that would depend on blockchain. Like Praveen rightly said, why should I don't have identity. I don't have means to prove identity today. I have a big issue with that. I have Aadhaar card, I have DigiLocker, but can I prove continuous identity? Digital identity is one of the biggest use cases of blockchain, more than crypto in my opinion, right? So that enabling that entire identity thing, that based on my identity, I can prove a whole lot of things where I don't need to again provide information which is distributed and siloed and copies lying all over. I think that is one big paradigm that only government can enable. Today, for example, if you go to DigiLocker, it clearly says don't carry registration of your car, don't carry driving license, right? And I've tried it with the security forces and police, where you show them the DigiLocker, they accept it. Now that's a long way, right, from what used to be where you have to give a duplicate and original Gazette officer stamped. So things have started moving, but government has to lead the way. The second area I don't think we've discussed much here, which is according to me the most fascinating aspect of distributed ledger, is smart contracts. The way smart contracts are structured, to Praveen's point on efficiency, right? Meaningful driving value. I think smart contracts is the best way to drive value. Today, if we have a dispute, we go to the legal system. Legal system, as you know, is already overbooked. They have 101 things, and if a corporate dispute comes in, it's mostly settled out of court by very expensive law firms. I think all of us are aware of it. But a smart contract helps us avoid all that. If you've met the terms of the contract, the smart contract gets executed by itself, right? Now, which court of law will accept a smart contract? None, because it's not as per our legal system. But the government can ensure that happens, right? And government can start using it itself by small things, right? We can start with basic steps and then scale it up as required. The third area is with cryptocurrency itself, right? When I look at healthcare, I look at a lot of payments. A good example I'll give you. If you go to any hospital, and all of us have visited hospital for some reason or the other, if not for ourselves, for our family members, there is something called doctor payouts. Doctor payouts are based on a lot of things. How many cases have they handled, what are the outcomes, and how did they perform on those cases, etc. And all of this is calculated manually today. All of this is calculated manually, right? And it takes a lot of effort on the hospital side to figure out how much it has to pay a doctor. And if you try to scale up the problem, it goes on to all the other contractors, retainers, diagnostic labs, other suppliers. Imagine the crypto world initiated by smart contract, where all of this just disappears, all this inefficiency. The job of the hospital is not to figure out how much to pay to whom. The job of the hospital is to figure out how to deliver the best quality of care. Today, they are battling this and 101 other things. So I think there are a lot of factors that will help the growth. But the biggest impetus has to come from the government. And I'm very happy to note that they have at least put out a strategy policy out there. That means the government is serious. Also, I believe that they are already mooting, I did contribute slightly to this thought process, where we are already mooting how to use crypto as a legal tender. So that is already, the thought process already started, though the trading is banned, like what Inder said, and rightfully so, because it will go to be a horse trading then. But I think the thought process has already started. India stack is available. But I think whether we look at Estonia, Japan, or Dubai, the three other countries which we keep referring to for blockchain, I think the government was the biggest mover. In India, it will be no different. But I'd like to get the thoughts of Praveen and Inder on that as well.
Praveen, would you like to interject?
Yeah, Dubai is a very good example, like Dr. Vikram said, in smart governance or every aspect of their livelihoods, they have been implementing blockchain, including so the other thing here is not just within one country. This solutions that we are seeing, cross-border solutions, how identities are being managed across the borders as well, for visas, for entry into a country. So a lot of solutions coming up there as well. So the potential is immense. One reason many people get attracted to this particular technology itself is it's not just a technology in itself, it's a social technology, right? So the society comes together, creating new ways of dealing with things, dealing with situations, and solving big problems. So I cannot disagree. I cannot say anything more than that. There are good examples. China has been adopting blockchain very aggressively in its academic scene. Right, lots of research, lots of. I would not be surprised if suddenly they come out with a lot of very innovative problem-solving solutions there. But then we do have some very good examples. So yeah.
Inderjeet?
Yeah, I resonate what Vikram and Praveen brought in, and we can keep on adding countries like the Switzerland for that matter, Estonia for that matter, Malta for that matter, Miami for that matter. They have been all added blockchain as or the cryptocurrency as the methodology of transaction, and everybody is using those technologies for all the governance which is there. So if you have to, firstly, all the networks are converted to the blockchain, and you have to pay using the crypto for the government services, like if you have to have the birth cards or the driving license. So countries are evolving use of blockchain and crypto, and India should be no different. And what Vikram brought in, I purely agree. India government will be the biggest user of it, because whether it's your land records, whether it's your health records, whether it's your voter ID card, whether it's your PDS systems or Aadhaar. I don't know whether they'll put the Aadhaar card onto it. Maybe in times to come, your passports, right? So lots of application on the governance part of it, lots of application for the public. So that's the kind of thing which we are going to be seeing in times to come, and we are seeing those things happening now. The traction has started moving up. Things are moving very positive on the blockchain part of it. So it's very interesting space now.
Thank you, Inderjeet. So every major change comes with a cost. So Praveen, when societies switch to crypto as their main currency, what immediate side effect do you see being felt? And please list both goods and bad ones.
So what I would say is, again, when we say it has become mainstream, you said. So when it has become mainstream, one of the biggest things that you would see is the wealth distribution has changed quite a bit, which I've mentioned more than once in this discussion. So we are going to see, like in case of trade, the stock markets, right? So there are going to be losers, there are going to be winners. especially if we are unable to constrict the speculation-based value transfer, then there are going to be a lot of challenges there. That is number one. So even when the Harshad Mehtas happened, the scams happened, we saw that happen, right? The society at large was very much disenchanted because a lot of bottom of the pyramid people getting hit badly, right? So if we are able to constrict that, control that transfer of wealth well enough, then I think it will be a positive approach. The positive aspects are like we have been discussing today, a lot of very, very good solutions. Problems that were not solved before can be solved using the solutions that we have today. As a precursor, we did the demonetization, right? All transactions happening digitally today. So every transaction that happens, the trust levels will be very high once cryptocurrencies are coming in, right? Be it the CBDCs, that's what I would say should be the case. And then within the fiscal space, a lot of new solutions would come in, right? FinTech, as I just came into FinTech very recently, 1 year back, and I see how cash can be managed in several many ways. So once we have cryptocurrencies, I see the product suite evolving a lot. The kind of inclusive financing that can be achieved using cryptocurrency. So I already, like even Samunati is already part of one of such projects with the University of Hyderabad. So where we are looking at inclusive growth for individual farmers, right? So how their borrowing capacity can be increased, how their opportunity cost can be reduced. So those are the things that we look at. So when cryptocurrencies are mainstream, I see that a lot of very good solutions are at play. And at the same time, this sudden change could really cause some heartburn for a large part of the society. So government should pitch in. And one of the participants has asked that question, right, already. So I think is that will minimize the bad effects. Yeah.
Thank you, Praveen. So, Dr. Vikram, what can be done to help these programs scale up?
Yeah, so obviously the government has to be involved. I think the other challenge that we clearly have is on the regulatory side, right? Once the government, even if the government decides to go ahead, RBI, for example, has given clear directives on machine learning, artificial intelligence, what they consider good use of data, ethical use of data for machine learning algorithms. I think the RBI has been very, very active on those fronts. I think the RBI will have to start giving directives on how to use blockchain. That I think will follow very soon, in my opinion. Biggest role will be a combination of the academia and industry. Though the government will, set the standards, will lead adoption, and also will give work. Eventually the government says, I'm going to do this project and this smart city project is going to be on blockchain. In some cases it is. Then other private players have to follow. But the industry academia collaboration is very important for the scaling up of blockchain. I'll give you an example why. Every organization, whether it's especially if it's listed and especially if it's beyond a certain size, needs to have audits. Audits are today with great difficulty. Our auditors started accepting reports coming out of SAP, and those of you who've been in industry long enough will remember the days when that used to be a debate. Can I accept something coming out of an SAP or Tally or Envision or any of the ERP systems? Now the auditor has to sign off for a report coming out of blockchain. So how prepared is he to do that? How prepared is he to check online without having a physical copy of the report, right? And for this, the collaboration between industry and academia has to start. Organizations, professional bodies like ICAI, ISACA, all of those have to start getting involved in training the workforce of the future to start creating that ecosystem that enables blockchain usage. Similarly, I discussed about smart contracts, the legality of smart contracts and how they will be adjudged. If we start adopting blockchain today and Inder and Praveen decide to do all their business on blockchain, I'm pretty sure there are not enough professionals available in the market to help them. And they will agree, both of them are nodding their heads. So what was happening is the academic institutions are not prepared to take the plunge, right? So while the government decides to set the path ahead, the academic institutions are still coming to terms with using distributed digital technologies versus using C# and Java. And if they put blockchain in the mix, I don't think our students are ready as yet, right? So not only on the technical side, but also on the business analysis side, envisioning, designing the whole system. You have to design the whole system around it, right? So I think a lot of work has to be done in those areas as well. While the government sets the standards and industry bodies set the regulation, I think the academic institutions and industry have to start collaborating on a much wider scale in order to make this happen. Last but not the least, and Inder can obviously go deeper into it, I think cybersecurity remains a big concern. And I'll tell you two areas. A lot of people have told me, hey, why you talk about cybersecurity in blockchain? It is immutable, it is encrypted, it is protected. There are two areas that interest me a lot. One is smart contracts. I said smart contracts is the biggest reason I would love to use blockchain, but smart contracts sometimes is the most vulnerable part of the blockchain as well, especially if adequate code review has not been done. There are enough cases of this. The DAO is the best example, where in 666 of the smart contract code, malicious code was introduced, which allowed somebody to siphon off Ether from the DAO, right? And that remains a very fascinating case even till date, right? Because it goes against the principles of blockchain to try to defend the DAO. So that is one. So do we have enough code reviewers to look at, review the code? Do we have enough tools to do it? Should we do it manually? Should we do it automatically? It's a fascinating story, and that area we have to improve. The other area is digital identity itself. When I say digital identity, I mean identity and access management of the blockchain. The way it was set up was it was without any access management system, at least the public blockchains. Now, what I'm assuming is everybody will go for private permission blockchains or some form of control, which the government will put in place, right? Otherwise, you will have madness. Then how will you look at the whole concept of identity and access governance, right? One of the biggest casualties of digital transformation today is that identity professionals are heavily overworked, because almost everybody's gone digital and there are not enough identity professionals in India, whether it's privileged identity or even your basic identity, right? So with blockchain coming in, I think that will be $1 million question unless India finds a way to innovate in these areas. In the words of Sridhar Vembu of Zoho, he says not developing code, but tools to develop code. So unless we develop the tools to do smart contract code review, or we develop tools to do identity access management in the blockchain, I think India will again depend on Silicon Valley and the likes to help us out, which is an opportunity lost in my opinion, right? Like at one time we were net importers of milk. Today we are net exporters. We are exporters of aircraft technology. So I think this is a ripe opportunity for us to start looking in those directions. And if those listening to this webinar are not the ones, it won't be up to Praveen, me and Inder to start doing it, right? I think everybody has to chip in. And I think the opportunity is there. Whether you're ready to take the plunge or not, that's the question. Back to you, Jigyasa.
Thank you, Dr. Vikram. So we are at the last leg of our summit panel. So I would like for Praveen, Inderjeet, and you to give your closing remarks and some key giveaway in a single minute. Thank you. Praveen?
Yeah, Dr. Vikram raised a very pertinent question in technology adoption. When we have those coders, we have those analytics and analysts, people who would review the code. So I think India does very well in that space. Our folks adopt very fast. I know there is a lot of enthusiasm in the smart contracts development and all these, the new technologies that are Hyperledger and all these. I'm hoping, yes, we will be positioned in a good place there whenever this happens. One thing I just want to mention is, so every regulation or change, the government also goes through a cycle of learning. So if you look at the the FAME 1 versus FAME 2 in the EV space. So in the FAME 1, they did not put enough uh, uh, lines about importing solar panels. They only said, okay, jitne log solar panel dalenge, utna we will give you the benefits of that. So a lot of companies started importing solar panels, but there was a great opportunity to develop solar panels in India. So that's when they created FAME 2. Likewise, when these regulations or the policies makers are working, I think there will be a lot of learning. But they should go in these lines, the FAME 1, FAME 2 experience. I think that definitely helps.
Yeah.
Inderjeet?
Yeah, 3 points, quick one. I'll just cover it up. One, regulate the cryptocurrency. Regulate the exchanges also, compliances, and good technically, not the normal paper compliance. That's very much required for the Bitcoin community. Second is, the way we have the paper on the blockchain, that has to be put on ground, and we should have maybe a vision 2025 where all, what all services are going to be on the blockchain. That vision is not there. That clarity is not there with us from the government perspective, because that will be the main driving factor for a lot of people who are working on ground. Because there's a huge community which has come up, but at the same time, they are directionless. Everybody is doing similar kind of thing. Everybody is maybe complementing each other, but then there has to be a direction towards it, so that smaller projects can form part of the bigger government projects, right? So the inclusiveness of the startups into the government projects, which will be very much required today, because government for themselves, they don't have the talent to or the skill set for getting those projects in. But however, the startups can be a big boost to them to drive this technology in a shortest period of time. That's why I was saying 2025 we should have. And the third is the banking sector, which we are looking in to have the digital currency. I'm in real favor of that. The Indian blockchain based CBDC coming in, that will be a big game changer for the complete country from the blockchain perspective.
Thank you, Inderjeet. Dr. Vikram, quick 1 minute review.
Yeah, I think I've already said enough on this. I think blockchain government is the biggest driver. That's number one. I think all of us agree. Number two, huge opportunity for India. Huge opportunity. Number three is there are certain aspects that need to be thought through. We need to have the right foundation. I think academia needs to be involved more aggressively. I think time has come for that. Israel does very well on innovation because academia is directly involved. The Ivy League, Stanford, they do very well because academia is directly involved with industry. I think we have the opportunity to do that now. We should do that. And last but not the least, like Inder said, somebody has to take a start somewhere. There is a huge ecosystem that has been created. People are there, but totally no direction from the top. Hopefully that will change in the coming days.
Thank you, Dr. Vikram, Inderjeet, and Praveen for participating with us and spreading information out there. And in case our audience have any more questions, I would request them to connect with our speakers on LinkedIn and you can ask them there. Thank you so much for participating. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a real pleasure meeting you all. Have a great day. Bye-bye.